Mic check, 1, 2. Welcome back, everybody, to the latest edition of the Devils Rink Report. I am your host, James Nichols via New Jersey Hockey Now, Devils reporter, and Happy New Year, everybody. It is officially 2026. We have turned the page on the calendar year that was 2025, and what a year it was. A year in review, full of highs and lows for the New Jersey Devils, but nonetheless, we come into the new year on a high. Can you say that? We're going to talk to Pasha about that in a little bit, but welcome to the January 2nd edition of Devils Rink Report. And like I said, we have Pasha Eshghi of Spittin Chiclets coming on the show in a few moments. He is standing by. A couple news and notes from this morning. No Luke Hughes at practice today. He's just fine. Sheldon Keefe said there's nothing wrong, just a day off for him. And, a couple questions about that. Oh, why does he get a day off? Well, I mean, listen, he's probably played some of the most hockey on the Devils, this year so far. I mean, when Brett Pesce was out, Luke Hughes was playing top pair, top defenseman minutes, really. He was playing number one defenseman minutes, like over 20 minutes a night. So he probably just needed some time off. I mean, he scored, a really clutch goal the other night, the game winner against the Columbus Blue Jackets. We'll talk about that again in a little while as well. But it's been a long season for Luke Hughes, and whether he's been really good or whether he hasn't been that good, it's been long, no less. So he gets a day off this morning, with the team returning to practice after an off day yesterday. Another note is just a small tweak in the lineup. It will be Paul Cotter coming out of the lineup and Juho Lammikko coming in. This is something that Sheldon Keefe does like to do. Is if a guy's sitting for too long, he doesn't want him to sit there and get rusty and cold. I mean, look, it's been long enough for Lammikko that it probably does happen anyway. But yeah, he was sitting for a handful of games. I don't know how many off the top of my head. But Cotter comes out, and the thing about that is when Cotter's really good, he's really good. And then when he's not good, he's really not good, So there are days where he's on the ice and you notice him really well, and then there are days on the ice where you don't notice him at all. And then there are days where he's on the ice and you say to yourself, "Oh, I want to rip my hair out," just because, what is he doing out there, right? One of those things I said a couple episodes ago is that he has the hands. He just doesn't have the mind yet, right? Those things, and I say yet because I think it could happen. I just don't know if it's there yet at this point. But he's one of those players who you get frustrated with, right? Because you see the talent, you see the raw ability, it's there. He just doesn't. I don't know if his mind has caught up to his hands yet, and that's something he's got to work on. So Cotter comes out, Lammikko comes in for tomorrow, the 3 o'clock game against the Utah Mammoth, who just gave it to the Islanders, by the way. 7-2 victory over on Long Island. So that will be an interesting one for sure. But we have our guest standing by now, Pasha Eshghi of Spittin Chiclets podcast, and he joins me on Devils Rink Report. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Well, what's up, James? How are you? Good to see you again.
Good to see you, pal. What's going on? Anything new cooking up for you that you want to plug real quick?
The gang just interviewed Tom Brady last night. That'll be coming
How cool,
out.
Man.
Yeah. So apparently that went really well. That'll be coming out next week, I believe. So yeah, pretty cool for them. And then me just sort of punching the wall and frustrated about the state of our Devils.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. So, it's a bit of a vibe check here. Last game trailing 2-0 through 2 periods, and then they score 3 in less than 2 minutes. What do you think? Is this the turnaround? Is this new year, new Devils?
I think it certainly has the potential to be the quote unquote TSN turning point type of win of the season. I mean, things were pretty gloomy when it was 2-0 in that game. I was just like, I was down in the dumps. Pretty remarkable 3 quick goals. I don't think, they're out of the woods like, oh yeah, now we're back type thing. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the ice and off the ice. Outside of that, whatever 3-4 minutes, I think they played like shit that game. So they're lucky to come away with the 2 points. But yeah, let's just say they needed that. Things would be a lot worse if they didn't come back there. But lots of work has to be done, primarily on both on and off.
Yeah. Listen, I hear what you're saying. We're going to touch on that in a little bit. But what do you think it is with this team? I know what I think it is. But what do you think it is with the the highs and the lows. I mean, like clearly they have the ability. They showed you in that
Hmm.
3 minute stretch. But what is
Hmm.
it about the Devils, in your opinion, that you're seeing that just has them go through these highs and then these extreme lows where they're just down and out and they can't seem to get themselves out of it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like it, I know. Like I don't want to sound repetitive, and like it might be a cop out, but the injuries just have derailed the 2 seasons prior, and then this year, like you said, they won 8 in a row. They were buzzing. Injuries derailed things, and now they're kind of getting back healthy. But I don't think it's as easy as like the guys get back and hit the ground running. Jack's obviously not at 100%. So I think it just throws that out of sync. Guys have to kind of overcompensate when the other guys are out. Um, so that's the easy answer. I think ultimately though it's roster construction. I think the bottom six has been a black hole. That was supposed to be something that was addressed. I think Palat should not be playing with Jack Hughes. Jack, I don't know how many chances a game Jack puts on a platter for him. The guy can't score him. So I think ultimately, other than injuries, I think it's roster construction, and that falls on Fitzy.
Certainly does. And, I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about that roster construction. I know you were pretty open-minded about, or had a lot to say about one of the players on the blue line, Dougie Hamilton. Listen, you had some points there, and I don't necessarily disagree with, how things have been going for him on the ice. I haven't really been nice to him either. I've said a couple of times that if they're going to play the way that they're playing and not get the most out of their $9 million defenseman, what are you doing with that guy then? You got to do
Yeah,
something with him. Either put him, on the bench, put him up in the rafters with, myself and the other reporters, or you got to move him, right? But
yeah.
what is it that you are seeing that you're not, loving, and what was your takeaways from what you had your comments the other day on Game Notes?
What am I seeing about with Dougie, you mean specifically?
Yeah, what are you seeing out of him as a player that you're not
Not
loving?
much other than fucking minor penalties left and right. I mean, like 2 tripping penalties the other night. You're getting paid $9 million. Like, show some heart, show some emotion, show some effort. Like, I'm not saying he's been the worst. He's actually like I think under the hood, he's been like not terrible defensively, but he's paid to generate offense from the back end. I don't like Palat's contract at all, but at least for the $6 million, the guy is working his bag off. Sure, he's not bearing a grade A chances, but he's working hard. He's putting his body on the line. He's out there trying. Dougie is so lackadaisical, so nonchalant. Um, just it's hard to watch. So yeah, if you're getting paid $9 million and you're not contributing, um, something's got to give. Something's got to give. So yeah, I kind of let it fly the other day. Just that's frustrations that have been boiling over for quite a while, but it's just really frustrating because like he is now hampering the team on and off the ice. He's hurting them on the ice with his play and his lack of offense, and he now having blocked 2 separate trades is handcuffing them for making the team better. And it's like like I said on game notes, he has 1 point since November 1st. So he obviously needs a change of scenery, shake things up. The team obviously does. And like I said, what do you just want to sink with the ship? Like, do what's right for you, do what's right for the team. And I know it's easy to say do what's right for you, but like, I'm obviously not him, his life, blah, blah, blah. But like, you know, your organization clearly doesn't want you. They've tried to trade you twice. Take the fucking hint.
Right,
Could be good for
right.
you. You get it, you go get traded, and all of a sudden you're lighting it up, getting maybe somewhere warm weather, lighting up with points. So you're better off, and then the Devils are better off. And right now you're just sitting there and you're not playing well and you're sewering the team that you're with. And so yeah, it's frustrating.
You guys are listening to Pasha Eshghi, Spittin' Chiclets podcast and Game Notes. If you have any questions for him, please be sure to leave them in the chat. But yeah, no, Pasha, I agree with you. I mean, one of those things that I have noticed about Dougie's play lately, and look, he's never been like the greasiest guy, right? He's not gonna, fight for puck possession in the corners. He's, sometimes he'll lay the body. I mean, he's got this huge frame. He just doesn't
Yeah,
really
he's six
utilize it.
six.
Right, exactly. One of the things I kind of wonder though is, as you said, we know that, I spoke to him. He kind of danced around the question as to whether he actually, denied a trade or vetoed a trade. Who's going to answer that question, right? Probably not many, but someone's got to ask it. But he gave us everything that we probably needed to know. I kind of wonder if because he's been, asked a couple of times now to move that no trade clause, no move clause, if he's just playing like he knows he's not part of the future here. Um, I'm kind of seeing some, lackadaisical play offensively. You're not really seeing that elite shot that he certainly still has. I mean, it was, on display earlier in the season, but perhaps that second ask was, maybe a bit of a damper on him. But you're right. I mean, it's hurting the Devils. I mean, it's a big cap hit. It's the highest cap hit on the team, tied with Luke. And if he's not going to give it his all, then certainly he probably should be, waiving that no move, no trade clause. And
Yeah, well,
he's
it's like,
probably
you know, there's two directions you can go. The one that you mentioned, where it's like, okay, like they wanted to trade me, now I'm gonna sulk and like I'm not part of the future and I play like shit. Or it's like, no, fuck that. I'm staying here. Let me prove to them that I can help this team. Let me elevate my game. And he clearly hasn't done that. So that just makes matters worse if that's the case. And he's like, oh, I'm not part of the future. My head's not in it. I'm playing like shit. Like more reason to just fucking go, go.
Yeah, certainly. And you'd think that you would want to boost your trade value to maybe go to a destination that you want. I've for some reason always had in the back of my mind he's a fit on Dallas. They want a right-handed shot. The cap hit's probably too high for them. Where else could he go? I'm not really sure. I mean, honestly, I mean the teams that he could probably go to, they probably can't absorb that cap hit. So something's gonna have to happen. We'll see. But Fitzgerald has a job to do, and we're gonna talk about him in a minute. But there's something else I've been seeing pop up. Social media is just that black hole of positivity, right? But I've been seeing this discourse on Sheldon Keefe. Some say maybe he's, the one that needs to go. I don't know if I'm there. Where are you at on the head coach?
Yeah, I think I don't think he should be spared of blame. I don't think he is like the number one problem. I think even if they were to fire him, they would still have a lot of other shit they got to clean up. So put it this way, they have a lot of issues. I do think I've been a supporter of Keefe since day one. Much like Fitzgerald, I don't think he's had a fair shake in the sense of like the injuries last year, the injuries this year. It's hard to kind of judge a body of work when the team is just not even remotely fully healthy. But I am concerned that his coaching style has them playing slow, and they're a fast team. They were one of the best rush teams in the league a couple years ago, and now they're one of the worst. And that's just not acceptable with that roster. Being 32nd in the last year and 5-on-5 goals is not acceptable. I think he's a good coach. I think especially defensively, but I think I don't know if he's ideal for that roster makeup because he has a fast team playing slow, and I think that is hindering them offensively. So, yeah, I don't think I'm not saying fire Keefe per se. Um, you know, I think a massive shakeup is needed. So, if that's the move, I would rather that than no move and just more of the same that we've been seeing. Especially since, like I mentioned on Game Notes, PD DeBoer is out there, and he's my favorite coach in Devils history. So I would love to see him back behind the Devils bench. But yeah, I don't think firing Keefe is a one move that's going to fix all their problems.
Yeah, I agree with you, and you're right. His system does have them playing a bit of a slower style, but that's I don't know if you've noticed. I mean I watch this team pretty closely every day. I'm sure you do too. What it was though in the beginning of the season wasn't this system. Now they're playing slower now, more defensive now. I think it's just this shift that keeps had a mentality that like, look, we're not scoring 5-on-5, and if we're not going to score that way, then maybe we got to play more of a defensive style. We'll rely on our blue line. Hope to get that goaltending. It's been inconsistent this year, but a bit better lately. And our star power should get us the 3 goals that we need to win a 1-0 game. Have you noticed that too? I think that's the trend I've noticed, is that they were fast in the beginning of the season, obviously that 8-game win
Yeah.
streak, and now since the injuries and everything, they've had to slow things down.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. Yeah, because even last year before the injuries, I liked what I saw. This year, like you just mentioned, I like what I saw. That's why, you know, he's not kind of number one on my list of things that have to change. You know, I still think that he is not like the perfect coach for them. But yeah, I think you have a valid point there in the sense of there's been an adjustment with injuries. But like I said, at this point, I'm desperate for a shakeup, and I'll take it any way possible.
Well, you bring up DeBoer. I'm curious what you think would be different under him. Why would it work a second time around as opposed to how it went the first time?
I mean, how it went the first time, he took him to the Cup Finals in his first year. that seems to be kind of his MO. He'll take a team to the cup finals. I think it's like within his first year or second year. He's done that like a few times. And then he seems to kind of wear out his welcome. But I mean, it's hard to compare to like rosters back then, with Kovalchuk, Parise, and it's a different game. The sport has changed so much, but I think, you know, I'm not really like in the X's and O's as to like why DeBoer would be a good fit here. It's just more like I had a lot of good memories of DeBoer as a coach. He seems like a beauty, and he's obviously a very good coach. So just having him kind of be there on the wings available is kind of where my first thought goes if they were to fire Keefe. But I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know if ownership wants to spend that much money, right? Because DeBoer is not
right.
going to come cheap, and so yeah.
Right. And I wonder if he's picking up the phone to call Sheldon to say, like, hey, listen, I'm not interested in that job either. Kind of like
Right.
how we do with Berube.
Yeah.
But, it would be a cool full circle moment. I mean, I think that, you see the success he's had in like places like Dallas and, he was with Vegas for a hot minute, right? He's
Yeah.
moved around a couple of times. So,
San Jose, yeah.
yeah, San Jose. So I mean, he does have the successful resume. You do wonder, but I'm with you. He's Sheldon Keefe's not first on my list either on the chopping block here. I think that, he is a good coach and I think he can get them out of this. You know, I said the other night, somebody in that locker room's got to staple balls to the board because you need to play that way every night. Now, he is that guy. That's how he played when he was a player in
Yeah.
the league, and he coaches that way too. He'll tell them straight up, like, you gotta tug your balls here, and you gotta go out there and play a harder game. It's just about execution at that point, and he's not afraid to let it fly and let them know that. So I'm with you. I don't think he's on the chopping block for me, but we'll see how the rest of the season shakes out there. But in order for him to be successful, the guy upstairs has to do something for him. I mean,
Yes.
obviously
Yeah.
the roster right now isn't 100%, isn't complete. Smo Nemitz is still out, Kovacevic is still out, and those guys might not be able to come back yet because
I know.
of the
It's
salary cap
crazy.
issue. So here's my question. I mean, I believe you said you're not on that fire Fitzy train yet, correct?
Oh, sorry. Can you?
Yeah,
Just,
yeah, I hear you. You're good. I lost you
I'm
for a
good.
sec.
Um.
Yep,
Oh, I'm not.
you're good.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know if I'm fully on the Fire Fitzy train, but like I would say my frustration with him is growing by the day. And like the more I reflect on like what happened and like his inability to land Quinn Hughes when it was obvious he wanted to come here and not having the cap sorted out, and like everyone knew the Devils needed another top six winger in the summer. And yeah, I don't know. I think Fitzy's done a lot of good, but I think he's had a couple blunders. And I really think like it's make or break time for him. He has to find a way to navigate this situation, fix this broken team, make a shakeup, get them back on track. And if he can't do that ASAP, then yes, I think he needs to go. I'm willing to kind of give him one more crack to see what he can do. Because something's got to give. Kovacevic, I think, will be back, quite soon. Hopefully with Nemitz as well, like you said. But if he can't get rid of Dougie and Palat or whatever needs to be done to open up the cap space to not only get the guys back that are already on the team able to play, but add the pieces they need to sort of take the next step, then I will be aboard the Fire Fitz train. But I would say right now I am, at the train station, in line to get on the train, but not quite on the train. Hoping I'm in
I
line for the
certainly.
train, hoping the train gets canceled, but I'm in line for the train.
I want to miss my train for the first
Yes,
time I think I'm
exactly.
ever saying in my life, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I hear that. I mean, listen, I just spoke to, one of the former NHL GMs that knows Fitzgerald in the league. And he was truthful. He said, like, look, Fitzy's a well-connected guy. He knows a lot of other GMs in the league, and that's because he was a player, and a lot of these other GMs are former players now. He has those lines of communications with San Jose, Calgary, all these other teams that he can speak with. I mean, Nashville as well. That's a team that, we hear a lot of dialogue that they're talking. Um, but it's about being able to close the door and get a job done. We saw him, make these great moves like acquire Tyler Toffoli, and then we saw him make these awful moves like trade him away for
Hmm.
nothing. Um, but you look around the league right now, and it's a strange position that the entire league is in. The parity is real. There's no true sellers except for maybe Pittsburgh. But are you letting Fitzgerald make this next move? And if you are, where do you look at this point? Because I mean, the teams like the ones I just mentioned, they're kind of in the hunt. Like, where do you go now and look at and say we need to get somebody on this team that can boost our lineup in New Jersey?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing. Like the landscape has shifted with all these teams like Nashville and stuff racking up wins. But you know what? That's not my job to figure out. That's Fitzy's move, and none of that is going to get figured out unless he can find a way to get Dougie and or Palat off the books. So he's got to find a way to do that, and then with that money, find a way to get a winger or a center. Like I know I had said before, I didn't want Stamkos. That's more just like the contract wise. Like Stamkos, the player himself, I think would be a great add. But how are they going to add his salary? Unless it's kind of like a direct swap for Dougie type of situation. But yeah, they need a 3C. They need a top 6 winger, but that can't happen before they get rid of the Dougie and Palat. So I don't know. Fitzy's got his work cut out for him, and this should have happened a long time ago. And yeah, I think the clock is ticking. So thankfully, I'm not saying these are easy decisions. Thankfully, they're not mine to be made. He's getting paid the big bucks to figure it out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're right. Dougie's gonna have to be one of the guys that goes if they're gonna do this, and Palat too. I just don't know who's taking that contract. I mean, either contract really. It's gonna be a tough decision.
Yeah, but like
I think
you could say, look at how many other like similar type, like quote unquote bad or overpaid contracts have been moved by
right,
more competent GMs. Throw a fucking first round pick in there. Who cares?
right,
Like I don't care about first round picks. The time
right.
to win is now. I don't care about a first round pick that might turn out to be a player in 5 years. Like I don't care. 2 second round pick, whatever it takes. Like
Yeah.
the time to win is now. Sweeten the deal. You have to get the contracts off the books.
Well, that's what I was going to say, right? Is like for the next three seasons, they have their first round pick. I mean, all of those, in my opinion, can go. The core is
100%.
not they're not getting any younger, right? You got to add to this core now, so all those can go. You got to make the necessary attachments to get rid of these contracts and make it happen. So I fully agree with you there. I think the last time we spoke, correct me if I'm wrong, you said, and I don't know if this player is available. I don't think he is, but your ideal fit would be a Philip Forsberg if that's someone they're going after.
Yeah, he'd be incredible, but like I didn't think he was available back then, and now like they're rattling off wins and they're back in the race. I don't think they're gonna do shit or they're not gonna make playoffs, but like they're far less likely now to trade guys like that. So I think Fitzy's missed the boat. Not to say that Nashville might not fall out of the race again and then trade those guys, but like by that point, is that too late to save the Devil season? I don't know, but I think he's come second or missed the boat on a lot of things. And yeah, I don't know. I really loved him going out and getting Timo Meier ahead of the deadline a few years ago. And I was like, okay, I love this proactive approach.
Yep.
And, who's to say he wouldn't have done similar stuff the last 2 deadlines? They were just so decimated with injuries. No Jack.
Yeah.
Didn't make sense for him to go do that. So, that was one thing I did defend him on. People were like, oh, he doesn't do anything. He sits on his hands, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, no, he's shown to go out and make moves. But now it's kind of like things have gotten dire where it's like, all right, well, we need to see a move now. It made sense the last 2 deadlines, the lack of moves. But right now, the lack of moves do not make sense to me.
No, I hear you. And one of the, like I said, there's few teams right now who are clear-cut sellers. One of the teams I do look at, though, is Calgary. And I've been banging this drum all season. I'm going to continue to bang it. They need Kadri. A guy like him would do wonders for this team. He can play center. Jack is on the wing right now. Imagine having Kadri in the lineup, on centering Jack with Jesper Bratt. I mean, that guy's a 30-plus goal scorer on a crappy Calgary team last year. Just imagine what he could do next to Jack and Bratt this year. And, he's that dog. He pulls his teams into the fight. And, I think you've seen what he can do with Colorado and winning a cup there, right? And how crucial he was for that team. That could be the same effect he has in New Jersey. Not to say that he's the missing piece of the puzzle, and they're definitely going to go to the Stanley Cup. But I mean, he gives you so much flexibility, right? So I think that's the kind of player you go and overpay for. 35 years old, making $7 million for the next 2 seasons after this year. But it is what it is. But like, you have to make this kind of move, and those lines of communication are open between New Jersey and Calgary. Clearly, Markstrom, Toffoli, Sharon Govich, all those moves were made. So I think that's something that, Fitzy should probably try and get done. But all right, I got a couple of comments here from some chatters, and then we're gonna get you on your way. I appreciate you joining us today. Sean,
Yeah, of course.
bring up one or two questions here for Posh, and let's dig in a little bit. At Adam G_6 says Devil's New Year's resolution should be simple. Prove that you're a core with worth adding to, and not a core that needs to sell off. What are your thoughts there?
I mean, I think they've already proven that. I think like when fully healthy, they've proven that they can be a wagon. So to me, it's less about the core proving that they need to be added to. I think we all know that that core is elite. Um, I think it's just time to improve kind of the peripheral pieces.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Like if you're selling anything on this team, it's not really going to be a quote unquote sell. If anything, you're going to maybe do some sort of major shakeup, right? And that might involve trading. And this is just, and I'm not advocating for this, but if you're going to trade a guy like say Jesper Bratt, you better make sure that you're getting like a Brady Tkachuk in return, right? That
Right.
caliber of a trade, something
Yeah.
to shake up the or
Hmm.
shock the system and bring in something of equal or better value back. I mean, that's kind of what the Wild did with Quinn Hughes, right? I know we wanted to see him in a Devils jersey, but they were kind of, swimming, they were treading water, and then they got Quinn Hughes, and all of a sudden they're one of the best teams in the Central, right? So,
Yeah, I
that's the
agree with
kind of
that.
yeah, that's the kind of impact move you gotta make for the Devils is shock the system, bring in somebody who's gonna like blow you away, give up a little bit, sure, but get something serious in return.
Yeah, I
Uh,
agree.
what else we got here, Sean? Let's do one or two more. At Jay Snow says everyone's too comfortable here, and that's the problem. You know, that's a good point. I'm going to take this one quick and I'll let you go, Posh. But I did have this conversation with somebody in the box the other day where it was like, kind of feels like a country club here where everyone's just happy to show up to work. Everybody knows the checks are going to clear at the end of the day, and regardless of whether they win or lose, and that's probably not a good place to be in, right? There are certainly emotions in that locker room and they talk about it, but it shouldn't take like a pregame or sorry, an intermission speech every game to get the team going, and it doesn't always work, right? So certainly there might be something to that comfortability that you mentioned there, Jay Snow, and that's one of the reasons why I say like, okay, then put everybody on the hot seat and maybe make that kind of impact trade where you kind of tell them, listen, if your name isn't Hughes, then you're not safe.
Hmm. And yeah, like the comfortability, like who does that fall on? That's to me, that's on Fitzy, right? Like you run the team, and if you're telling me it's a country club and everyone's too comfortable, that's on you. At least in my opinion.
Yeah, certainly. And also Jay Snow in the chat says, Pasha, tell Biz the Leafs suck. Just
Well, maybe after the game the other night, I'll be quiet down for a bit. That was hard to watch.
Sean, let's get one more here, and then we'll let Posh get on with his day. At Richard Ivana says, put Timo on power play one on the right wing, and he's back in business. I'll let you take that one, and then I'll comment after.
Yeah, I agree. Put Timo or Gritsuk there. Like these guys need to be hammering one-timers using their shot. That's a knock I have on Keefe is that these guys are not being utilized, in their best way. You see it every year. Like Jack gets hurt, Timo gets bumped up, more ice time, power play one. It's Meyer March, and he starts lighting it up. Like Timo needs to be getting those touches, those one time. Like the team isn't flush with guys with like heavy sniper shots. Like Timo and Gritsuk have elite shots. Um, I think I texted this to you a while, but like they should be teeing up like that Gritsuk one timer like the Capitals have done for Ovechkin for the last 20 years. Like I feel like
Right.
Gritsuk, like he gets a clean setup for a clean one timer like once every like other game where it's like he should be getting a few of those a game. Like his shot is so elite. They should be doing everything they can to funnel that to him and getting him that release. So that's been a frustrating part for me is the lack of like putting those guys in a position to use their shots, especially with like them struggling to score with Jesper Bratt's, newfound fear of shooting the puck. Like he's never been a big shooter, but like some
Yeah.
of the stuff I'm watching lately is like he'll like I think on the power play he'll like beat a guy and have like a clear lane towards the net and he'll like cut back like towards the D man that he just beat to like pass it up to the point where it's just like just shoot the fucking puck.
Right. No, 100%. Now, I'm with you. Somebody needs to be in one of the circles, left or right, and just rip shots, I've said, we saw the success that Nason had as a net front. Keep him on the first power play. I'm fine with that. You're not moving Jack Hughes off of power play one. So what you're really working with here is moving one of Nico or Bratt off of the first unit power play. And you're gonna have to be okay with that because I think Timo, or if it's Gritzuk, he needs to be one of them need to be on the first unit, just ripping shots.
Hmm.
And it might have to be Bratt, because they have the
Yeah.
distributor in Jack. They have the
Right.
power play quarterback in Luke, or if it's Nemitz when he comes back, or if it's going to be Dougie. I mean, just get somebody the puck in the circle, and if it doesn't go in, it's going to create a rebound. And I think
Exactly.
Nason is good for depositing that puck. So,
Yeah,
I'm
I think they have like one of the lowest, if not the lowest, goals scored off rebounds this year. I think that's a combination of lack of guys getting in the paint for those
yeah,
rebounds, but also a lack of like shooting mentality to create those rebounds. And yeah,
yeah,
between Jack, Bratt, and Luke, though that's too many sort of fluid skating, playmaking facilitator type players. Where yeah, I agree. Like if you take Brad off of one of those guys, you need a more shooting mentality. I think you keep
yeah,
Nico on there for the face-offs and all that, but um, yeah, you need and that's what I love to see with Nemitz. Like I thought when he was doing it,
yeah,
his shot was lethal. People respected it. It opened up more space for other people. Um, yeah, to be honest, I have not loved what I've seen out of Luke on Power Play One.
yeah.
I did last year, but this year it seems like he can't get a shot on net to save his life.
Yeah, I call him the shin guard king. I mean, he's been hitting a ton of them. He can't find the shooting lanes, and Nemitz did a really good job at finding those shooting lanes, and that's why you saw the early success that he had amid that breakout. But all right, Posh, that's all we got for you today. I appreciate you hopping on with us, and I'm sure we'll do this again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and hopefully next time I'm on, it'll be more peaches and roses and cheery, good things to talk about.
Yeah, hopefully we'll catch you soon, buddy.
All right, thank you.
And all right, there goes Pasha, and appreciate having him on. He's always a welcome guest around here, and we know that you guys love having him and hearing his takes, hinged, unhinged, whatever they may be. We love having Pasha on, and he's the best. So, all right, let's get to some notes from the week. So, 3 games in the past week, and we know how it went, right? One overtime loss to Washington, a loss to Toronto, which was just gut wrenching. And it was just hard for, me as a media member to just sit there and watch. That was just an ugly, ugly game. And then the 3-2 win against the Columbus Blue Jackets, which we touched on with Pasha. The scoring issues, they continue. And look, yes, right. The Devils are running into hot goaltenders, Joseph Woll, David Rittich, right? These guys are making unbelievable saves. Like, I get it. But what I don't get is that if this team had a finisher, right, they wouldn't be shooting it right into the chest, into the pads of these goaltenders, right? These shooters, sharpshooters know how to shoot. Excuse me as I close my blinds here. The sun is setting. But shooters know how to find those areas, those spots, the twine that is really really minimal, but they can hit it, and that's what you're seeing with the Devils right now is they just don't have any true finishers, right? Meyer's a guy who's supposed to be a finisher like that, but he's doing so many other things on that line with Nico and Dawson, right? Nobody's really driving the play there to set him up. He's kind of contributing to the drive of that play, and they have to score dirty goals as a line there, and that's probably why when you mix that line up a little bit and you get Bratt on that line and you have Timo with Nico and Bratt, you see him scoring a few more goals. And that's probably more the formula for Timo. But right now he doesn't have that ability. So, the thing is, I think you need to get somebody who's going to be able to transition the puck and not have to have Timo do it because he's excellent at doing it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's something wrong with him. But I think that line needs a puck transitioner so Timo doesn't have to worry about it. So we'll see. Captain THC says the sun is setting on our season 2, unfortunately, and I think that's a hilarious comment. Listen, it's not though. That's the thing, and I understand the frustration completely. And it just feels like this has been a never-ending cesspool of just awful play. And I get it. I'm not again saying that the Columbus game was the turning point of the season. It was like 5 good minutes, literally, and they happened to get out of the game with a win. But if, getting those 2 points and scoring those 3 goals, which they haven't done, scored 3 goals many times in the past month, truly is something that helps turn the season around, then that's great. I think that you can point to this game and say, like, if it goes well after this, you can point to this game and say, okay, that was the turning point. The thing is, like I said, the parity in this league, these teams are so close, right? They're not very far out of playoff position. I haven't checked since after last night, but if I'm not mistaken, it's no more than 4 points, right? 2 points. They're 2 points out of playoff position to the Buffalo Sabres, who are, by the way, just a wagon right now, 10 wins in a row. That could be a problem if it ends up that the Devils are working towards a wild card spot instead of a Metropolitan Division spot. But still, they're only 2 points out. The top to bottom in the Eastern Conference is not much of a difference. You're talking 51 points as opposed to 44. It's a 6 point swing. So I get it. It's 7 point swing. Excuse me. I get it. The play has been dreadful. You hate to see the kind of hockey that they are playing right now, but it is far from over. And any other year after American Thanksgiving, if they were out of it, I'd be like, yeah, that's it. It's chalked. I don't think that this year, just because of how close things are. And if they could just get their, for lack of a better term, shit together, they will, I think, eventually be fine. And we'll see if that happens as soon as this weekend after the win in Columbus. Um, Positive regression. Is this the positive regression that I kind of just mentioned that we're looking for? I mean, we'll see. They still need the shooting talent, and it hasn't been there. And that's why I said the other day on Twitter or X, whatever you call it these days, that I'm kind of, I understood at first like the hesitancy to be like, oh, let's go get Steven Stamkos, but now I'm looking at it, I'm like, this team has no finishers. Gritsyuk is still trying to figure out how to be that finisher. Timo could be that guy. But if you don't add another one to put on Jack's line, like clearly we've seen in the past where it doesn't really work out with Jack and Timo. I think he's better suited for Nico's line, but he needs a distributor. That's why I think Bratt is a really good fit for that line. I also understand that Bratt is a really good fit to play with Jack Hughes, the peanut butter and jelly thing. So I totally understand that. But you need a natural, true finisher. That's why I constantly bring up the Tyler Toffoli thing. I mean, he was on a 35 goal pace. They never replaced that. I don't know. Those goals were never coming from within. So one of the things is their best shooters have just been, not filling the net or out of the lineup. Mercer and Palat are certainly not getting the job done. And those are the guys I mentioned in the top six. And the bottom six is filled with guys who just can't finish in Glass and Nason and Cotter and Glendening, right? Like we saw probably Nason's best season last year. He's not going to hit 20 goals again. Not at least with the Devils. I don't think he will, unless they, put him back on the power play and he's just a power play merchant, kind of like Zach Hyman. Zach Hyman makes a living at the top of the crease cleaning up Connor McDavid's garbage. That's exactly what he does, right? And Stefan Nason could be a Zach Hyman light here in that sense. So, but they have no natural shooters. That's the problem. They need more natural shooters. Go get a Steven Stamkos. I think, I know I've been saying Nazem Kadri. He's got a really good shot. He's a shooter. So, I mean, things can change in two ways. The Devils' top pair top players regress to the mean and score more goals than expected. I mean, that's something that they have done in the past, and now this year they're way below expected, which is, not typical of them. Or, again, trading for that top six forward, maybe that, winger that seriously, I don't really know where they look now because Nashville's rattling off wins. So I don't know how serious Stamkos could be unless it's something that Fitzgerald blows Barry Trotz's out of the water. But that's what it is. They need a shooter in the top six. I'm not sitting here and saying it's going to fix everything, but it's going to fix a lot of things. It's going to help in many different ways. So we we will see. But my next point that, by the way, I tell you guys this every week. Most of the time, Sean puts together these fantastic notes for us, and I couldn't have phrased this any better. Producer Sean wrote, "The Devils have no balls." And listen, I mean, look, Sheldon Keefe. One of the things I admire about him and why I enjoy talking to him so much is because he always tells the truth in terms of how he thinks his team is playing. When I ask him about an injury, he's going to lie to my face, and that's fine. I get it. But in terms of, assessing how his team is playing, he always tells the truth. And he always says, you know, look, this was great. Here's where I really didn't, like, and we need to improve, right? And for a while, look, it started with him saying to me, like, I'm looking for players. I'm looking for players to play. And then the frustration grew. And he's like, I don't see anybody working hard. I need somebody to get in the greasy corners and dig out pucks and win their battles. And then the frustration grew even further, where he just straight up called them out and said, this team has no balls. This team has no balls. And that it didn't I don't know. It didn't do anything right away for the Devils, right? They came out the next game. That was the game before Columbus. Came out the next game, and for the first 40 minutes, they were just still no balls in their play. And then, Connor Brown allegedly stands up in the, and not, I mean, it happened, but stands up in the locker room and he, has something to say. And all of a sudden they score 3 goals. And, I was like, oh, is this balls? Is this what it is? Somebody's got to staple it to the board. Staple it to the board in the locker room and look at that sign. Literally, the oh God, I'm gonna forget the name of that show with the coach or the soccer player. He points to the sign. I didn't watch it. Don't, kill me in the comments, but you need that, in the locker room. Point to the sign and say, hey, balls. Let's play with balls tonight, right? Get into the corners, win your puck battles, like play hard. That's the thing that I'm not seeing with this team a lot of nights is that nobody's really playing 100%. They're kind of going out there and they're playing with this look on their face, which Sean, share my screen. Let me just actually pull this up if you can with the, or no, you can't share my screen. I got to share my own screen, right? Is that what I got to do? I mean, the look on their faces. Let's get a share screen. And yeah, let's look at this tweet here. Look at the faces. Look at the faces. Ready? Here we go. What is this? What are these faces? Look at Nico's face here. He knows. Right? He knows, oh man, going out down 2-0 against the Maple Leafs into the third period, right? Look at these lethargic handshakes. Look at Bratt's face, like, yeah, yeah, come on, let's get home. Come on, let's go out there. Like, there's no fire here. I think of, one of the first guys I think of every night when they're in that tunnel and getting their team fired up. Um, Alex Ovechkin. You ever see him lethargic in a lock in the hallway out of the locker room? You ever see guys like that? Ryan Reeves, right? I know you hated seeing him against the New York Rangers. Ryan Reeves would be in that tunnel screaming, getting his team ready for battle, essentially, ready for war, right? And look, is Ryan Reeves the best player in the NHL? No, but you need guys who are going to, like I said, dig in to your team and get them going, right? Get the energy going. Cotter is a guy who I think could be, that guy, but you haven't seen him do stuff like that, right? Coming out into the third period down 2-0. 2-0 is the worst lead in hockey. Or 3-0 is the worst lead in hockey, but 2-0 is no better, right? A 2-goal lead is attainable in 20 minutes. They scored 3 in 2 minutes the other night. You don't come out looking like that in the third period down 2-0. You got to dig in. And that against the Toronto Maple Leafs was not it. The next night against the Columbus Blue Jackets, yeah, they dug in third period, scored three quick goals. It should not take an intermission speech though every week. It shouldn't. It shouldn't. Every game, it should not take an intermission speech. And that's why this team needs to play with more fire. They need to play with more balls. And, look, I think Sheldon Keefe is the guy to make them do that. But, they got to a man, hold each other more accountable or hold themselves more accountable, right? Clearly, they're trying to hold each other accountable in the locker room with all these quote unquote speeches from Jack, from Nico, and now from Connor. But, that's the thing is like, it shouldn't take this much. And I'll take it a step further too. It shouldn't take a comeback every game. They should be coming out going up 2-0. They should be coming out hot on fire like that, right? So enough with these, routine pregame warm-ups. Like they got to play with passion. They got to play with fire. And that's why, I talk about, and I've been hard on Dougie Hamilton. And that's one of the guys who I see. And maybe it's because he's been asked to, waive his no move clause a couple of times. Maybe he's coming out a little lethargic, coming out a little unenergized because he knows he's not a part of the future here. doesn't matter, right? Somebody's got a lot of fire under his ass and say, listen, even if you're not a part of this future, then you got to be better for yourself so you can go somewhere and do something. But right now, I mean, unless that third period in Columbus changes the trajectory of the season, nobody's playing with that passion like we saw in Columbus there. Speaking of Dougie Hamilton, um, a question on whether or not he maybe just isn't being utilized the right way. Look at this. Share of possible ice time from 2024 was 32.8%. Now he's being used a little bit more, 35.6%. Well, what's changed? Well, in 24-25, he had 16.4% of his shifts starting in the offensive zone. This year, it's down 6.1% to 10.3. So he's starting more outside of the offensive zone. Maybe because they're trying to give Nemitz more time in the offensive zone. They're trying to give Luke that leash to, unleash his offense. But he's taken a step back there where he's maybe kind of being used more as a defensive defenseman, which is not his skill set, right? And now all of a sudden, your highest paid player in on the Devils is playing in a role that's not necessarily suited for him. So it's a tough look here. Percent of neutral zone starts in 24-25, 12.7%. Now 19.8. I mean, that's a huge 7-point difference. And then the percentage starts in the defensive zone in 24-25, 6.7%. Now 13, almost over double. I mean, you're looking at a major difference here. Percent of starts on the fly, 64.2% in 24-25. Now 56.8%. So perhaps, and this was a really great grab by Sean. I want to commend him for that. His starts and utilization on the ice have changed significantly since last season. And you kind of do wonder now if he's being utilized the wrong way, which, look, is that on Brad Shaw? Is that on Sheldon Keefe? They have to have a conversation about his utilization because this guy is on pace for less than 20 points. If you're not Jacob Slavin, you should not be making $9 million as a offensive defenseman then. Like, the thing is, if you're not contributing defense the way you should be, like a Jacob Slavin would be, then you're not a $9 million defenseman, and that's what he's making, and he's not providing the offense. So this is a problem for sure. Um, Other than that, some minor notes from the day, and then we're going to get to your guys' questions. The Olympic rosters for USA and for Sweden were named today. Jack Hughes obviously going to Team USA. You saw him actually help make the announcement. That was interesting. Wearing the hand brace, by the way, we have no longer, or I don't know, maybe it was a coincidence, but we're not hiding it anymore. The hand brace is out there now. And Jack said this morning to my buddy Ryan, "Hey, I just do what the doctors tell me to do." Yeah. Okay. And then Team Sweden, Jesper Bratt and Jacob Markstrom are named to the Olympic roster in Sweden. We kind of knew that was coming, right? These are no changes really from the four nations. We anticipate Palat and Simon Nemitz to be on Czechia. And I believe that is it outside of Switzerland, which we already know. It's going to be Nico, Timo, and Siegenthaler going for Switzerland as well. All right, that about wraps it up for our notes on the day. But Sean, let's get to some questions from the chat. And if you have not submitted your questions yet, please do so now. We'll get through them. We got a couple here that Sean has starred for me. Got a couple good questions, and I appreciate you all for contributing. By the way, if you have not subscribed to our channel just yet, please do so. And if you're somebody who likes to, listen to podcasts in the car, by the way, and you're not always here, but you do want to listen to more of this, listen, leave us a subscription anyway. And then, listen, it's free. We're not charging you for it. And if we get to 1,000 subs, we're going to start publishing on podcast platforms, your favorite ones, Apple, Spotify, wherever it may be. So if we get to 1,000 here, you can listen to us in your car as well. So hit that subscribe button and certainly, join the community because, if you're not going to listen now, you can certainly listen in the future when you're on your way to work or wherever it is that you're going. So, but again, if you have questions, leave them in the chat. We're going to get to some now. First one, Sean, let's put it on the board. And from Anthony Rusaniello, sorry if I messed that up, but he said, "Sorry I'm delayed, but this core can't keep getting bailed out by firing another coach. They've had 3 head coaching changes and 2 interim. None of these coaches can get them to play with balls." And look, that's why I said, and I don't disagree. Right. I think that there is something that this core either needs to look themselves in the mirror and say, okay, my name is Jesper Bratt and I love to distribute the puck, but I'm not shooting all that well. And I need to maybe play with a little bit more grease, right? And one of the things about Bratt that's so fascinating to me is that last year we were talking about how much he would be utilizing his body, right? He throws checks and he's not afraid to do so. But where is the initiative to dig deep when things are really tough? And, you're one of the elite players on this team, put the team on your back and make something happen out there, whether it is a fantastic play, whether it is, a big hit, whether it is, scrapping with somebody in, between the whistles, right? And that's kind of what Nico tried to do the other day when he dropped the gloves with Nyes. Now, was it an advised move? No, certainly not. Matthew Nyes is a monster who is 6'6", 230 pounds, and Nico had no chance. He's lucky it ended as quickly as he did, but I understood it, and that's exactly what Sheldon Keefe said was, I understand it. I love that from him. He's our captain. He's trying to get us going. And I fully agree. I endorse that. Somebody, though, in the bottom six who is not going to be as missed on the power play or something like that, or even at 5-on-5 in the closing moments of a game when you pull the goaltender, should be doing that, right? And look, I'm not saying that, the team needs a Curtis McDermott again. And this is kind of where the team misses Zach McEwen because that's his MO. He can not only shoot the puck apparently really hard, but he can hit really hard too. And, I think that they probably miss him in that aspect as well. You kind of forget that he's a player on this roster that you are missing right now. But I agree. The thing is, and that's why I said before, maybe you need to make some sort of major shakeup where you trade a major piece, but you get a major piece back. And I know I keep saying Brady Tkachuk because I can't really think of anybody else right now who might be available. And again, not saying that Brady Tkachuk is available, but if it ever came down to it where the writing was on the wall with Matthew Tkachuk and they knew he wasn't going to, re-sign there and maybe he wants to get back to the States, why not New Jersey? That's something that they've been connected before. The relationship is there with Fitzgerald. We're going to go through another whole Quinn Hughes situation if it ever came to that, right? Not to say that, Matthew Tkachuk is on the Devils. He's not, but there is a line of communication. There is a connection there with Tom Fitzgerald. So if you're going to do a major move like that, right, move out a guy like Jesper Bratt, you better be sure to be getting a Tkachuk back and do some sort of major shakeup here so that, you can get some guys who play with quote unquote balls because Brady Tkachuk is one of those guys. Sean, what else we got here, buddy? At Christy97 says, could some of Bratt and Luke Hughes' issues be the fact that they both had off-season shoulder surgery? It could be that. I mean, they both, I think, let's start with Luke. He missed training camp, so he's constantly playing catch up. One of the comments that I got from Sheldon Keefe last year about Dawson Mercer was like, look, he missed the first day and he was a step behind the entire team every day after that. Luke missed the whole training camp, so he's been a step behind times 10 every day after that, right? He missed a lot of days at the beginning of the season. He didn't really get to, build that chemistry, get those early repetitions in, and now he's trying to play catch up. Then the offense changes after the first 8 games where then all these injuries happen and they go from run and gun to defense first. And oh, by the way, you're the first defenseman on the team now because of all these injuries and you're playing on your offside. So I just think that Luke hasn't been able to find any consistency in his game this year, partly because of his own doing, right? He wasn't there. And then partly because of the need, right? They needed him to play the minutes he did. And now he's back with Pesci, and it's a little better. Don't get me wrong, it's not as bad as it was. But certainly he has been, a better defenseman for this team. I mean, he's a 50-point guy almost, and he hasn't been like that this year. So I think for him, it's just that there's been inconsistencies in his deployment, and that's to no fault of Sheldon Keefe. It's just out of necessity, and he wasn't there for the start of the season. For Bratt, I think it's a good point that perhaps, it's a bit of a different season for him after the shoulder surgery. I mean, you would think he would be playing better because he chose to get something fixed that had been nagging him for a while. But maybe he just hasn't found that level of comfortability yet. We've asked if he's not healthy. He says he's 100% healthy. It's just on him. I think I think for Bratt, he's never a guy that I ever see get shaken. but a lot of these guys are, have incredible poker faces. I don't think that he's 100% confident in himself right now. And he had that, two goal game the other night, which could perhaps be, a catapult to help him get that confidence back. But I think for a while there, he was playing with no confidence. And look, he had that wide open net against the Islanders. He sailed it through the crease, right? And last year, Jesper Bratt doesn't do that. So I think for him, it's a bit of a confidence issue. But I don't think it's the worst point that perhaps the shoulder surgery has had him having to adjust a little bit. I know, and it's not the same surgery; it's a different body part and everything. But there are factors. Perhaps like Nico Dawes told me a couple of years ago that after his hip surgery there are certain movements he can't make, but he figured out his limitations and it made him better. Maybe Bratt is trying to figure out maybe some limitations after the surgery. Again, this is all just hearsay. It's not anything that's definitive, but it is certainly a possibility. So it's a good point. But more than anything, I think for Bratt it's confidence, and for Luke Hughes it's just been inconsistency all year. Sean, let's do a couple more. What else we got here? Captain THC says Fitzgerald wasn't ready to trade for Quinn Hughes being available this early. I think he was going to push to get him this summer when it's easier to move those bad contracts to clear the way. And I think that's a good assessment. Um, one of the things like Pasha said, I don't have this confirmed, but I'm not doubting Pasha. He said that, they tried to trade him in the summer. I was just told that, they were just taking inquiries on who might be interested in case it came down to it in season, who would want to take him. Um, but look, I mean, I think that that's probably true. I don't think anybody expected Quinn Hughes to get traded this early. I think the summer was more what everybody had in mind for Quinn Hughes to get traded. And I think that, and like I said to Steve Warrior last week, that he said, it's probably going to be easier to trade Hamilton in the summer. You have more time. You can figure out, at the draft, maybe if there's a team that's going to want to take him on instead of making their draft pick because, they only got 2 years left of him and the cash that he's actually owed is not, equal to the cap hit. So that's probably better for a team who's going to digest that contract. So I think certainly it was going to be this summer that, the team looked to trade Hamilton. And now, with just the need and who became available, how early they did, and, everything like that, things have changed. And, you should be able to plan for that too. So it's a little bit still on Fitzgerald because he wasn't prepared for that. But now he's got to figure out a way. How are you getting Kovacevic back in the lineup, right? Simone Nemitz, like, look, he's kind of missed. I'm not kind of. I'm being generous here. He's missed, right? Nemitz, for as many deficiencies he might have on the blue line, he was a finisher for this team. Obviously he was scoring goals left and right, and he was really good on the power play. So you got to get that guy back in the lineup too. And how are you going to do that with the money that needs to come off the books? It's a tough position to be in. So certainly one or both of Hamilton and Palat have to move sooner than later, and the longer they wait, the harder it's going to be. So we will see, but I agree, THC, that the move for Dougie was probably coming in the summer. Although it looks like it might have to happen sooner, or they're going to be sacrificing perhaps somebody they don't want to sacrifice. So it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out. Let's do one or two more, Sean. Kyle Doremus says PB&J ain't working this year. Keep Bratt with Nico and Timo. Put Mercer with Jack and Grits. And see, I agree with that. It, Sheldon Keefe clearly didn't like Grisiuk with Mercer and Jack. He kind of went away from it after a game or two. But I agree that they probably should do that again and give it a little bit more of a leash. Maybe it was just too soon from Jack coming back from that hand injury, but I think they should try it again because Grisick is that finisher. We saw the shot the other night, elite shot, picked the corner and scored, right? And yeah, Jack Greaves was in net, but look, he could do that kind of thing. We've seen it happen before, so he's got a great shot. Jack can feed him the puck, and look, Mercer's the guy who in the 22-23 season, the majority of his goals came at net front, right? He was a guy who was able to clean up the garbage, and like I said for the power play, somebody's going to shoot. And then if it doesn't go in, it's going to create a rebound. Somebody needs to be there to score the goals, the garbage goals. And I think Dawson Mercer could be that guy. So I think the formula there does work. PB&J, meaning Bratt and Jack, have not been working. And look, having Palat as the third on that line, it's just banging your head against the wall. It's, oh, another puck on a platter for Palat, who shoots it right into the chest of the goaltender, or who misses the net completely, or who fumbles the puck and doesn't get the shot off and negates the scoring chance, right? So certainly I think that, at some point Gritsuk should get that runway to play with Jack. Mercer's probably a good third to have on that line. Um, so we'll see as the season unfolds, and if any moves are made here, if that's something that they're going to go back to. But you're right. Jack and Bratt have not been the way we know they can be this year. Last one, and we're going to wrap it up for the day. Captain THC says Sweden is going to be a strong team this year. Yeah, I'm excited for the Olympics. I do like the team that Sweden put together. I don't think Jacob Markstrom's going to be the starter, by the way. I think Jesper Wallstedt is probably going to take that role. But they did put together a really good team. I saw that there were some omissions as I look up the roster here right now. Um, Obviously, Linus Olmark's not there. Philip Broberg is on the team instead of Matthias Sekholm, which is a kick in the pants for the Blues because yikes, that is just a bad trade for the Blues, or not a trade. They just didn't. For the Oilers. I keep mixing up my teams. The Blues have Philip Broberg now, and the Oilers did not match that contract, so that's a tough look. To see him on Team Sweden going to the Olympics, but. No, I like their team. I mean, the blue line is really strong. The goaltending is really strong. Especially if Wallstedt's going to play like he has in Minnesota, and not to mention, like Jacob Markstrom might be the third string here because they have Wallstedt and Gustafson, the entire goaltending pair from the Minnesota Wild, who are both playing exceptional hockey. And then you have Leo Carlson makes that team. I mean, he's been fantastic this year. Gabe Landeskog's back. He wasn't in the Four Nations last year. He's gonna play in the Olympics. Um, then you just need to, for Sweden, hope that you get contributions from guys like Pedersen and Zibanejad and Lindholm, right? Um, so it's a good team. I do think that they are a deep team. I like them. I don't know that I like them any more than Team USA because I do want the red, white, and blue to win. That's one of those moments where I'm going to cover, the Devils players, during those weeks, but I'm also kind of a fan during that time period, right? Like I want to see my country win, especially after how the Four Nations went, where they won everything until the last possible moment. So it was tough, and you want to see that retribution, right? You want to see them get that win under their belt and be able to claim, hey, we beat Canada and we're better than Canada. We took home the gold. I would love to have USA bring home the gold, and I do think that they did make the right decisions for their roster with who they left off. I although I don't know about Chris Kreider, I do love Chris Kreider on Team USA, and I get that last year, he did not look great in the Four Nations. It's a smaller ice though, and I know it's only a couple of feet, but that might change things. I mean, the look, Boldy, Connor, Eichel, Gensel, Jack. Those are obviously shoo-ins. Dylan Larkin's been a beast this year. I think he was a good ad. Or I mean, he was there last year too, but he's been a beast this year. I think that was the right move. Putting Tage Thompson on this roster, every projection I see has him as a fourth liner. I'm like, why? He's a monster. He's massive. He should be, I think, a top six. If he's not a center, put him on the wing. I do kind of wonder, guys. I do kind of wonder if Jack does not go all that well, if he's the alternative to Jack. And we saw 1 point in 4 games for Jack last year at the Four Nations. And if he's not cutting it because of his size, Tage Thompson could certainly slide up and take that winger role. And I mean, could you imagine him on a line with Matthews and Gensel or whoever it is? I mean, that's scary business right there. I think the decision to leave Adam Fox off of the USA roster was an interesting one. I don't know. I haven't watched him too closely. The Devils haven't played the Rangers this season yet, so I haven't seen him play. Um, Faber's in, Hannafin is in, obviously Quinn Hughes. Seth Jones has been playing fantastic hockey. So I kind of wonder, like, is that part of that decision to have him, as a bigger guy? who can also transition the puck and provide a little bit of offense. Like, are they looking for a different role, right? Fox was kind of a non-factor last year, and it's because it was such a heavy game in the Four Nations. I do wonder if that was a part of the decision. So we'll see. But I mean, like, you weren't going to leave Slavin off. Werenski's one of the best defensemen in the league. Obviously, he's going to play. Jake Sanderson, I love Jake Sanderson. He's been fantastic. You're not going to leave him off the roster. So, I mean, look, could you argue that it should have been Fox over Faber? I would say yes. I would say it should have been Fox over Faber. I understand Jones. I understand Hughes, obviously. I understand McAvoy, although I do kind of wonder how much losing all that weight is going to hamper him, if at all. I don't know. I haven't really watched him too closely since he's been injured either. But, the two guys I look at, and it's less one than the other. It's Faber over Fox. I think I don't know if I agree with that one. Hannafin is an interesting one to me because he's so good in the other two zones outside the offensive zone that I wonder if that's the reason why. Um, but I mean, look at the goaltending: Hellebuck, Ottinger, Swayman. Swayman's the third string. I'm not even looking at him yet. To get through Hellebuck is going to be tough for any team. Then you have Ottinger if it doesn't work out. It gets no better, after Hellebuck, so it's tough. But the thing about Canada is they improved their goaltending. I mean, Thompson's there. It's going to be Binnington as the starter, I think, but Thompson is there. And then who did they name as the Darcy Kemper, who's been excellent this year for the Kings. So, look, Kemper plays largely in front of a defense first team, and maybe that's why he's playing so well. But Thompson is playing on the Capitals, who score a ton of goals, and they do have a defensive structure to them, and they have the star power, and obviously Ovechkin, who could just continue to score those goals, especially on the power play. But it's going to be Binnington's, net until it's not, and then they have Kemper and Thompson there to buoy him. And if for me, I'm kind of traditional. You win with goaltending, and then from the net out. The best goaltending in the whole tournament is going to be on Team USA. Big expectations for me for USA. It's gold or bust. They're not Latvia, they're not Germany. Who Germany's a good team, by the way, but they're not these teams who should be playing for bronze. It's going to be for me. USA should be in the gold medal game. I would love to see a repeat Canada USA. Who wouldn't? I mean, it's just fun. Maybe every other country might not want to see that. But I think those two will be in the gold medal game. And then you kind of wonder, could Sweden be an upset here? Could Finland upset here? Who, I mean, missing Sasha Barkov, that's gonna be tough for them to try to overcome that. But you wonder, you wonder if they could upset, or your all your favorite former ex-Devil Eric Holla on that team. Um, and don't sleep on Germany, Tim Stutzla and those guys, Leon Draisaitl and those guys. So it'll be interesting for sure. I do like the construction of Sweden. We will see. We will certainly see. But that's going to wrap it up for us on this Friday, January 2nd edition of the Devils Rink Report podcast. We have two guests lined up for the rest of the month who have not been on the show yet, so we're looking forward to those two guests in the next two shows, and then possibly I think there's 5 weeks in this month, so we'll have Ryan back at some point, and then we'll have more guests coming. So every week, great guests. Every week, every Friday, we're here for you at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tomorrow, the Devils play the Utah Mammoth 3 o'clock at the Prudential Center, and then they come right back on Sunday. Who are they playing Sunday? Why can't I remember? Is it the Hurricanes? They might be playing the Hurricanes again. On Sunday. And yes, they are. So they're playing the Hurricanes on Sunday. They're playing the Mammoth tomorrow. Big test for this weekend. You should win against the Mammoth. You want to at least play a meaningful game against the Hurricanes on Sunday. Make a statement here. And then the rest of the week, you have the Islanders, you have Pittsburgh. Those are two winnable games. If the Devils can squeak out 6 points this week, they're back. That's my opinion. If the Devils can squeak out 6 points this week, they're back. Because then they take on the Jets next Sunday, 2 p.m. game, who are not going well at all. Yes, they have Connor Hellebuck, but they should win that game. Then they have the Wild. That's going to be tough. Then they have the Kraken, and then they're back playing the Hurricanes again the following Saturday. Their schedule for the next couple of weeks They have. I look at one team in the Minnesota Wild who are going to be a big, big challenge. Um, and then I look at the Hurricanes who are not playing like the Hurricanes, but are they have the Devils' number. So you could say in the next 2 weeks, 8 games, 3 out of 8 games that are going to be a challenge. That means that you should take away 15 points. Is that crazy of me to say? Maybe, right? The Devils haven't proven that they could do that, but they should. So we'll see what happens. But that's going to do it for us this week. Thanks so much for coming by this Friday, January 2nd at 3 o'clock edition of the Devils Rink Report. Please, please, please smash the subscribe button and contribute to the chat next time we're here. Ask your questions. Be part of the community. We love to have you. We love doing this every week. And then we'll see you guys next Friday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, enjoy.